What did you find in your father's deleted messages? The fluorescent hospital lights made Dad's phone screen look even brighter as it sat there on his bedside table, unlocked and forgotten. He'd been unconscious for 6 hours since the heart attack, and Mom had finally gone home to shower and grab clean clothes. The doctors said he'd be okay, but seeing him hooked up to all those machines with his face gray as concrete had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. I wasn't trying to snoop. The phone kept buzzing with texts from his work, and I figured someone should let his boss know what happened. But when I picked it up and swiped to the messages, the first thing I saw made my stomach drop. Dad to Uncle Rick, March 15th, 11:42 p.m. Asterisk just sent another $2,500 for Brandon's spring break trip to Cabo. Kid deserves it after maintaining that 3.8 GPA in his master's program. Asterisk. I stared at the screen, my hands starting to shake. $2,500. For spring break. That was more money than I made in 3 months working my ass off at the campus bookstore and tutoring kids after class. My thumb moved almost on its own, scrolling up to see more. Dad to Uncle Rick, February 28th, 17 p.m. Asterisk Maya's been asking about help with next semester's tuition again. I keep telling her we're stretched thin with medical bills, but honestly, she needs to learn some responsibility. Brandon never asked for handouts, he figured it out himself. Asterisk. The words hit me like a physical blow. Medical bills? What medical bills? Mom had been healthy as a horse, and Dad's only doctor visits were routine checkups covered by insurance. I kept scrolling, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it over the steady beep of Dad's monitors. Dad to Aunt Linda, February 14th, 9:23 a.m. Asterisk Brandon's apartment deposit came through fine, $3,200. Found him a beautiful place in downtown Portland, walking distance to campus. Meanwhile, Maya's complaining about her roommate situation again. I swear, that girl expects everything handed to her on a silver platter. Asterisk. My legs gave out and I sank into the plastic visitor's chair. Brandon lived in downtown Portland? He told me he was staying in graduate housing, splitting rent 4 ways to save money. I was crammed into a moldy basement room with a girl who left dirty dishes everywhere and brought random guys home at all hours, working 30 hours a week just to afford my share of the $800 monthly rent. But it was the next message that made me want to throw the phone across the room. Dad to Mom, January 22nd, 7:33 p.m. Asterisk Maya called again about that campus job fair. I know she's trying, but she lacks Brandon's natural drive. He's got that entrepreneur spirit, already talking about starting his own consulting firm after graduation. She's just going through the motions, hoping someone else will solve her problems. Asterisk. Going through the motions? I'd applied to 47 jobs in the past month. I'd been rejected from 32, was waiting to hear back from 12, and got callbacks from 3. I spent every free moment between classes either working, studying, or filling out applications. Meanwhile, my older brother Brandon, the golden child, was apparently living it up in a luxury apartment funded by our father's secret generosity. The worst part wasn't even the money, though that stung like hell. It was seeing in black and white what I'd suspected my whole life. Dad genuinely believed I was the family disappointment. I kept scrolling, my fingers trembling as message after message revealed the scope of Dad's deception. Each one felt like a knife twisting deeper. Dad to Brandon, December 18th, 3:45 p.m. Asterisk Merry Early Christmas, son. $4,000 deposited for your textbooks and supplies. Winking face. Enjoy that ski trip to Aspen. You've earned it. Just remember what we talked about. Maya doesn't need to know about our arrangement. She's already stressed enough with her situation. Asterisk. Brandon to Dad, December 18th, 12 p.m. Asterisk thanks Pop. Maya still doesn't suspect anything, right? I feel kind of bad sometimes. Asterisk. Dad to Brandon, December 18th, 15 p.m. Asterisk don't feel bad. You're the one with the business degree and actual career prospects. Maya chose liberal arts, she made her bed. Besides, this is teaching her character. Look how hard she's working. It's good for her. Asterisk. My vision blurred with rage. While I'd been surviving on ramen noodles and skipping meals to afford textbooks, my brother was skiing in Aspen on Dad's dime. While I'd worked double shifts during Christmas break instead of coming home, Brandon was living like a trust fund kid. But Brandon knew. He knew and went along with it. I scrolled further back, my heart sinking with each revelation. Dad to Uncle Rick, November 3rd, 8:21 p.m. Asterisk had to get creative with Maya asking questions about finances. Created some fake medical invoices for Linda's treatments, just in case she goes snooping. $15,000 in fake cancer bills should explain where Brandon's tuition money went. Linda's in on it, obviously. Asterisk. Aunt Linda's cancer treatments. The family crisis that had supposedly drained Dad's savings right before my sophomore year. I remembered crying myself to sleep, feeling selfish for being disappointed about having to take out additional loans when Aunt Linda was fighting for her life. I'd even sent her my grocery money, $60 I couldn't spare, for a care package. Aunt Linda had never had cancer. Dad to Aunt Linda, October 28th, 5:17 p.m. Asterisk Maya bought the medical bill story completely. Thanks for playing along with the treatments. Brandon's MBA program costs more than expected, but he's worth every penny. Kids going places. Asterisk. Aunt Linda to Dad, October 28th, 6:43 p.m. Asterisk no problem, but I still think you're being too hard on Maya. She works more than any kid I know. Asterisk. Dad to Aunt Linda, October 28th, 6:51 p.m. Asterisk work doesn't matter if it's not smart work. Brandon networks, plans, thinks strategically. Maya just puts her head down and grinds. That's not leadership material. I'm doing her a favor, forcing her to develop real survival skills instead of depending on handouts. Asterisk. I wanted to scream. Every family gathering where relatives had looked at me with pity, every whispered conversation that stopped when I entered the room, every time someone asked how I was holding up with the family's financial struggles, it was all based on lies. Dad had crafted an entire false narrative where he was the struggling father making sacrifices, Brandon was the self-sufficient success story, and I was the burden he couldn't afford to help. My phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Asterisk, hey, heard about Dad. Flying back from Portland tomorrow. Don't worry about picking me up, I'll just grab an Uber. Asterisk. An Uber from the airport cost at least $80. More than I spent on food in a week. I stared at his message, wondering how I'd ever looked up to him, how I'd spent years feeling guilty that he'd had to figure everything out on his own while I struggled. None of it was real. None of it had ever been real. I kept scrolling deeper into the message history, my hands shaking worse now. Part of me wanted to stop, to pretend I'd never seen any of this, but I couldn't. It was like picking at a scab, painful but impossible to resist. Dad to Mom, September 12th, 2:14 a.m. Asterisk, can't sleep thinking about Maya's call tonight. She sounded so defeated talking about dropping her photography minor to pick up more work hours. Part of me feels guilty, but Brandon's opportunity with that internship at Goldman Sachs is once in a lifetime. The $8,000 for his living expenses in NYC will pay for itself when he gets the full-time offer. Asterisk. $8,000. I dropped my photography minor, the one thing at college that actually brought me joy, because I couldn't afford the lab fees and supplies. $300 had been too much to ask for. Meanwhile, Dad was funding Brandon's summer in Manhattan like it was nothing. Mom to Dad, September 12th, 2:31 a.m. Asterisk, I know you want to help Brandon, but Maya looked so thin when she came home last month. She's working herself to death, Michael. Maybe we could help with her groceries at least? Asterisk. Dad to Mom, September 12th, 2:35 a.m. Asterisk, Maya's fine. She's young and resilient. This is building character, she'll thank me later when she's independent and self-reliant. Brandon's at a crucial point in his career trajectory. We can't let family guilt compromise his future. Asterisk. Mom had tried to advocate for me. That was something, at least. But clearly Dad's will had won out, like always. I found more messages between Dad and Brandon, and each one made me feel sicker. Dad to Brandon, August 15th, 6:22 p.m. Asterisk $200 transferred for your textbook emergency. Enjoy the weekend in the Hamptons with your Goldman buddies. Networking is everything in your field. Asterisk. Brandon to Dad, August 15th, 8:45 p.m. Asterisk, you're the best. The connections I'm making out here are incredible. Maya still working at that bookstore? Saw her Instagram post about pulling a double shift. Asterisk. Dad to Brandon, August 15th, 9:01 p.m. Asterisk, yes, still at the bookstore plus tutoring. She posted about being proud of saving up $200 for new work shoes. Can you believe that? $200 and she acts like she climbed Everest. No vision for the bigger picture. Asterisk. My throat closed up. I remember that Instagram post. I'd been so proud of those shoes, the first new pair I bought in over a year. My old ones had holes that I'd been covering with duct tape, and I'd worked extra shifts for 3 weeks to afford replacements. The comments from friends and family had been so supportive. Dad had even liked the post. But privately, he'd been mocking me to Brandon. Dad to Uncle Rick, July 4th, 11:15 p.m. Asterisk, Brandon's throwing a pool party at his new place, $3,500 per month, but completely worth it for the networking opportunities. His roommate's dad is a partner at McKinsey. Meanwhile, Maya spent the 4th working a catering gig. She texted me a photo of herself in that ridiculous uniform, grinning like she'd won the lottery because they gave her leftover appetizers to take home. The contrast between my kids couldn't be starker. Asterisk. I remember that catering gig. It had been brutal, 12 hours on my feet in July heat, dealing with drunk rich people at some executive's backyard barbecue. But the pay had been good, and yes, I'd been excited about the leftover food. Those fancy appetizers had been the best meal I'd had in weeks. I thought Dad would be proud that I was working so hard. Instead, he'd used it as evidence of how pathetic I was compared to Brandon. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Mom. Asterisk, honey, how's your dad? Any changes? I'm stuck in traffic but should be back within an hour. Asterisk. I stared at her text, wondering how much she really knew. The messages showed she'd tried to help me sometimes, but had she known about the fake cancer bills? The made-up medical expenses? How deep did this deception go? Before I could lose my nerve, I started taking screenshots. Every message, every transaction, every cruel comment. My phone's photo gallery filled with evidence of my father's lies and my brother's complicity. The heart monitor next to Dad's bed continued its steady beeping, and I looked at his unconscious face. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by the hospital bed and machines. But I felt no sympathy. Only a growing, burning need for answers. And justice. I was so absorbed in screenshotting the messages that I almost didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. Mom's voice carried through the door as she talked to one of the nurses, and I quickly locked Dad's phone, shoving it back onto the bedside table. My heart hammered as I tried to look casual, but my hands were still shaking. Any change? Mom asked as she entered, dropping her purse and a bag of Dad's clothes onto the spare chair. She looked exhausted, her hair still damp from the shower. No, still the same, I managed, hoping my voice sounded normal. The nurses checked on him about an hour ago. She moved to Dad's bedside, smoothing his blanket with that automatic motherly gesture I'd seen 1,000 times. I brought him fresh pajamas for when he wakes up. You know how he hates hospital gowns. I watched her fuss over him, this woman who'd tried to advocate for me in those messages, and felt a stab of something between gratitude and betrayal. Mom, I said carefully, how bad are our finances really? She glanced at me, her hand stilling on Dad's blanket. What do you mean, honey? I mean, I know I'm expensive with college and everything. I've been thinking maybe I should take a semester off, work full-time, save up some money so I'm not such a burden. The look that crossed her face was pure panic. Maya, no. You're not a burden. We're managing fine. But the medical bills, Anne. What medical bills? The words came out too sharp, too fast. I felt like I was walking through a minefield. Aunt Linda's treatments. Dad said that's why money's been tight. Mom's face went white. She sank into the chair across from me, suddenly looking older than her 53 years. Oh. Those. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the steady beep of Dad's monitors. I waited, watching her internal struggle play out across her features. Maya, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, there's some things about the family finances that are complicated. My chest tightened. What kind of complicated? She looked at Dad's unconscious form, then back at me. Your father has very strong ideas about fairness. About teaching independence. What does that mean? It means, she stopped, shaking her head. It means he thinks the best way to help you is to make you figure things out yourself. He says it builds character. Well, Brandon gets help figuring things out? The question hung in the air like smoke. Mom's face crumpled slightly, and I knew I'd hit the target. You know, I said, my voice steadier now. I don't agree with your father's methods, she whispered. But Brandon's situation is different. His career prospects. His career prospects what? Matter more than mine? No. But she couldn't meet my eyes. It's just, your father sees Brandon's path as more certain. More financially secure. He thinks investing in Brandon now will benefit the whole family later. And what about investing in me? Mom was quiet for a long moment. He thinks you're stronger than Brandon. More resilient. He says you don't need help the way Brandon does. I almost laughed at the twisted logic. So because I'm strong enough to handle being abandoned, I should be? Not abandoned. Then what would you call it? My voice was rising, and I forced myself to whisper. I'm working myself to death, Mom. I haven't bought new clothes in 8 months. I skipped lunch for 3 weeks straight last semester to afford my chemistry textbook. Meanwhile, Brandon's living in a luxury apartment in Portland? How is that fair? Mom looked stricken. You know about the apartment? I know about a lot of things. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the screenshots. The question is, what are we going to do about it? She stared at my phone like it was a weapon. Maya, your father's heart attack has nothing to do with this. This has been going on for years. If you confront him now, while he's recovering. When then? After he's paid for Brandon's entire life while I drown in debt. Mom reached across the space between our chairs, her hand covering mine. Please. Let's talk about this at home, as a family. When your father is better. I looked down at her hand, soft and warm, and felt the last piece of my childhood break away. She wasn't going to fight for me. Even now, knowing everything, she was going to choose keeping the peace over protecting me. Brandon's graduation party is next weekend, I said quietly. Her hand tightened on mine. Maya, what are you thinking? I met her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look away first. I'm thinking it's time for some honesty in this family. Mom's face went ashen. Maya, please don't do anything rash. Your father made these decisions because he loves you both. Love? I pulled my hand away from hers. Is that what we're calling it? Before she could answer, Dad's phone buzzed again on the bedside table. We both looked at it, the screen lighting up with a new message. From this angle, I could see the sender's name, Brandon. Mom reached for the phone, but I was faster. I grabbed it before she could stop me, my thumb swiping to unlock it. Brandon to Dad today, 3:47 p.m. Asterisk K-pop, just landed in Portland. Heard Mom's at the hospital with you. Should I fly out tonight? I can push back my thesis defense if needed. Also, rent's due tomorrow, can you handle the usual transfer? Sorry for the timing. Asterisk. The usual transfer. Like it was routine. Like Dad paying his 25-year-old son's rent was as normal as paying the electric bill. Maya, put that down. Mom's voice was sharp now, all pretense dropped. I kept reading, scrolling to see if Dad had somehow responded despite being unconscious. He hadn't, but I found something else that made my blood run cold. Dad to Brandon yesterday, 10:23 a.m. Asterisk Maya's been asking about summer plans. I think she's hoping for help with an unpaid internship at that magazine. Obviously can't fund her pipe dreams when you've got real opportunities. Your Goldman contact came through with the second interview, right? Asterisk. Brandon to Dad yesterday, 11:05 a.m. Asterisk yeah, interviews next month. Maya mentioned that internship to me too. It actually sounds pretty cool, it's with Portland Monthly. Same city as me. Asterisk. Dad to Brandon yesterday, 11:12 a.m. Asterisk cool doesn't pay bills or build real career capital. Let her figure out her own path. Speaking of which, $1,800 transferred for your groceries this month. That networking dinner with the Goldman team isn't cheap, I'm sure. Asterisk. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling with rage. The internship at Portland Monthly. I'd been dreaming about it for months, researching the magazine, following their editors on social media, crafting the perfect application. It was unpaid, but it was exactly the kind of experience I needed for journalism. I'd asked Dad about it 2 weeks ago, just wondering if there was any way he could help with living expenses for the summer. He looked me straight in the eye and said the family couldn't afford to support an unpaid internship. That I needed to focus on jobs that actually paid money, not fantasy careers that lead nowhere. Meanwhile, he was sending Brandon $1,800 a month for groceries and networking dinners. He killed my internship, I whispered, looking up at Mom. I already gave up on it because he said we couldn't afford it. But Brandon gets $1,800 a month for food? Mom reached for the phone again. Maya, you're taking this out of context. What context makes this okay? I jerked the phone away from her reaching hands. What context makes lying about Aunt Linda having cancer acceptable? What context makes Dad telling the whole family I'm lazy while secretly funding Brandon's entire lifestyle reasonable? Your father was going to tell you eventually. When? At Brandon's wedding? At his CEO promotion party? When exactly was Dad planning to let me in on the secret that I'd been the family charity case this whole time? The heart monitor's beeping seemed to get louder in the silence that followed. I looked at Dad's still form, machines breathing for him, keeping him alive, and felt nothing but anger. I worked 56 hours last week, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Bookstore, tutoring, and a catering gig that ran until 2 a.m. Sunday. I made $437. Brandon gets that much just for existing. Mom was crying now, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. I know it's not fair. I've tried to talk to your father. Not hard enough. I stood up, Dad's phone still clutched in my hand. Brandon's graduation is Saturday. The whole family will be there. Uncle Rick, Aunt Linda, Grandma, everyone. Maya, what are you planning? I looked at her tear-streaked face, this woman who'd birthed me and raised me but hadn't protected me when it mattered. I'm planning to tell the truth. The next morning, I sat in my dorm room staring at the screenshots spread across my laptop screen like evidence in a crime scene. 43 images of messages, transaction records, and lies that painted a picture so damning I could barely believe it myself. My roommate Jess had left early for her 8 a.m. psych class, giving me the space to plan what felt like either justice or complete family destruction. My phone rang. Brandon. Hey Maya, how's Dad doing? I'm at the airport in Portland, about to catch a flight. His voice sounded genuinely concerned, which somehow made everything worse. He's stable. Should be awake later today. Good, that's good. Listen, I've been thinking about graduation next weekend. With Dad in the hospital, maybe we should postpone the party? I almost laughed. Brandon, ever the considerate one. At least in public. Actually, I think we should still have it. Dad would want you to celebrate. You sure? I know money's tight for everyone right now, and a party seems. Money's tight? I couldn't help myself. Is that why you asked Dad for rent money yesterday while he was unconscious in the hospital? Silence. Then, what are you talking about? I saw the text, Brandon. Rent's due tomorrow, can you handle the usual transfer? More silence. I could practically hear him calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew. Maya, look, it's complicated. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty simple. Dad pays for your life while I work myself to death. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. This MBA program, the networking, the expectations. Oh, I don't understand pressure? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I worked a 16-hour day yesterday, Brandon. Yesterday, while Dad was having a heart attack, I was serving drinks at some corporate event because I needed the money for textbooks. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. You were too busy spending Dad's money in your downtown apartment to notice your sister surviving on ramen noodles. The line went quiet except for airport announcements in the background. When Brandon spoke again, his voice was smaller. How long have you known? Does it matter? Maya, I wanted to tell you. I felt guilty about it, but Dad said. Dad said what? That I deserve to struggle while you live like a trust fund kid? He said it would make you stronger. More independent. He said he was doing it for your own good. I pulled up one of the screenshots on my laptop. Dad to Uncle Rick, March 22nd, Brandon's spring wardrobe emergency handled $800 should cover the suit for his interview. Meanwhile Maya's wearing the same 3 sweaters she's had since freshman year. Good thing she's not vain like most girls her age. Jesus, Maya. A wardrobe emergency, Brandon. $800 because you needed interview clothes. I've been wearing the same winter coat for 3 years. The zipper's been broken since last December. I'll pay you back. All of it. Once I get the Goldman job. With what money? Oh wait, let me guess. You'll ask Dad for a loan to pay me back for the money he already gave you instead of me? Another long pause. What do you want me to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? An apology? Repayment? For him to confess to the family himself? I want you to be there Saturday. At your graduation party. When I tell everyone the truth. Maya, please don't do this. Not at graduation. Think about Mom, think about Dad recovering. I've been thinking about them my whole life. When do I get to think about me? This will destroy our family. No, Brandon. Dad's lies already destroyed our family. I'm just going to stop pretending otherwise. I hung up before he could respond and immediately turned off my phone. Within minutes, my laptop started chiming with Facebook messages from him, then Instagram DMs, then emails. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened a new document and began typing. The truth about the Martinez family finances, a timeline. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Every transaction, every lie, every cruel comment would be laid out in chronological order. By the time I finished, there would be no room for Dad to spin this as a misunderstanding or Brandon to claim ignorance. The party was in 6 days. That gave me just enough time to prepare a presentation that would change everything forever. I spent the next 3 days crafting what I privately called the Goldman Files, a comprehensive breakdown of Dad's financial deception that read like a forensic audit. Every screenshot was labeled, dated, and cross-referenced. I'd even created a spreadsheet showing that over the past 2 years, Dad had given Brandon $47,300 while giving me exactly $0. The number made me physically sick every time I looked at it. Thursday afternoon, I was putting the finishing touches on my presentation when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown Portland number. Maya? It's Brandon. I'm calling from a friend's phone because you blocked me. I'd wondered how long it would take him to figure out a workaround. What do you want? I flew back early. I'm at the hospital with Mom and Dad. He's awake now, and Maya, he knows you saw the messages. My blood turned to ice. How? Mom told him. She was worried about what you might do at the party, so she thought if he explained his reasoning. His reasoning? I laughed, but it came out sharp and bitter. Let me guess. Building character, right? Teaching me independence? Maya, please just come to the hospital. Let's talk about this as a family. We haven't been a family in years, Brandon. We've been a charade where you and Dad pretend I'm an equal while you both know I'm not. That's not true. March 8th, Brandon. Dad texted you about my scholarship rejection from the Journalism Foundation. Do you remember what he said? Silence. He said, and I quote, Maya didn't get the journalism scholarship. Probably for the best, saves her from chasing another dead-end dream. Your business trajectory is so much smarter. Maya. I cried for 3 hours when I got that rejection letter. 3 hours, Brandon. And Dad used it as an opportunity to compliment your career choices. I didn't respond to that message. No, but you didn't defend me either. You never defended me. I was pacing my tiny dorm room now, my laptop open to another damning screenshot. April 3rd, Dad calls me financially irresponsible for buying a $12 used textbook instead of borrowing one from the library. Same day, he Venmos you $400 for what he calls Brandon's essential networking lunch. Stop, please. $400, Brandon. For lunch. Do you know what I ate for lunch that day? A sleeve of saltine crackers from the campus food bank. The line went quiet except for hospital sounds in the background, that distinctive echo of hallways and distant conversations. He wants to see you, Brandon said finally. Dad's asking for you specifically. I bet he is. Maya, he's still recovering. The doctor said stress could cause another episode. And there it was. The emotional blackmail I'd been expecting. Make me the villain if Dad's health declined, make it my fault if speaking the truth hurt the family. You know what's stressful, Brandon? Working 40 hours a week while maintaining a 3.7 GPA. Eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner because you can't afford groceries. Watching your father pay your brother's rent while you consider dropping out because you can't handle the student loan debt. I know you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done. I closed my laptop, the presentation complete. The party's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Uncle Rick's house. I'll see you there. Maya, if you do this, there's no going back. I looked at my reflection in my dorm room mirror, tired eyes, clothes I'd owned for years, the face of someone who'd been fighting an uphill battle without even knowing the game was rigged. Good, I said, and hung up. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow was the day I would detonate a bomb in the middle of my family, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad's face in that hospital bed. But then I'd remember the messages, the lies, the fake cancer bills, and my resolve would harden again. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk Maya, it's Dad. Borrowed a nurse's phone. Please come see me before tomorrow. There are things you don't understand about the family situation. Things that will change how you see all of this. Dad asterisk. I stared at the message for a long time. Even now, even caught red-handed, he was trying to manipulate me. Things I don't understand. Like there was some secret justification that would make years of lies and favoritism acceptable. I typed back, asterisk I understand plenty. See you at Brandon's party. Asterisk. The response came immediately, asterisk Maya, your college fund exists. It always has. $52,000 sitting in an account waiting for you. I was going to surprise you at graduation. Brandon doesn't know. Asterisk. My heart stopped. I read the message 3 times, my hands shaking. $52,000? A college fund I didn't know about? Another message, asterisk I have the bank statements. Account opened when you were 5 years old. Every birthday, every Christmas, every achievement. The money was always there, Maya. I just wanted you to prove you could make it on your own first. Asterisk. I sat up in bed, my mind reeling. If this was true, if there really was money set aside for me, then everything I thought I knew was wrong. But if it was a lie, just another manipulation. A third message, asterisk the account number is 448-729-1556 at First National. Call them tomorrow morning. Ask for Margaret Chen in customer service. She's been managing the fund for 14 years. Asterisk. The level of detail made it sound real. Account numbers, specific names, exact amounts. But Dad had created fake medical bills convincing enough to fool me for years. How hard would it be to make up a bank account manager's name? I grabbed my laptop and pulled up First National Bank's website. Their customer service page listed employees, and sure enough, Margaret Chen was there, personal banking specialist, 15 years of experience. My chest tightened. Was this real? Had I spent 3 days preparing to destroy my family over a misunderstanding? But then I remembered Brandon's graduation party fund, the $3,200 apartment deposit, the $4,000 for textbooks and supplies, the monthly rent payments. If Dad had $52,000 saved for my college, why was I working 60-hour weeks and living on food bank crackers? I typed back, asterisk if this fund exists, why did you let me struggle? Why did you lie about medical bills and family finances? Asterisk. The response took longer this time, asterisk because money you didn't earn wouldn't mean anything to you. Look at Brandon, everything handed to him, no real work ethic. You're stronger, more capable. You needed to discover that about yourself. Asterisk. Even if the fund was real, the cruelty was breathtaking. He'd watched me suffer for years, watched me drop my photography minor, skip meals, wear clothes with holes, all to teach me some twisted lesson about self-reliance. My phone buzzed again, asterisk the Goldman internship Brandon mentioned? I could fund your Portland internship too. The magazine job you wanted. $2,000 a month for living expenses, just like Brandon gets. We could start over, Maya. A real partnership. Asterisk. And there it was. The bribe. The last-minute attempt to buy my silence. I turned off my phone without responding. Even if the college fund was real, it didn't erase the messages I'd seen. The cruel comments, the fake medical bills, the years of letting me believe I was a financial burden while secretly funding Brandon's luxury lifestyle. Tomorrow's presentation was still happening. Some truths were worth telling regardless of the consequences. Saturday morning came too fast and too slow at the same time. I woke up at 6 a.m. after maybe 2 hours of actual sleep, my laptop still open beside me with the Goldman files glowing on the screen. The presentation was ready, 47 slides of evidence that would unravel 20 years of family lies. But first, I had a phone call to make. At exactly 9 a.m. when First National opened, I dialed their customer service line with shaking fingers. First National Bank, this is Margaret Chen, how can I help you? My throat went dry. She was real. Hi, I'm calling about an account that might be in my name. Maya Martinez, born June 15, 2004? Let me look that up for you. Can you verify your social security number? I rattled off the digits, my heart hammering against my ribs. Yes, I show an education savings account opened in your name in 2009. Current balance is $54,847.23. Are you calling to make a withdrawal? The room spun. $54,000. It was real. Dad hadn't been lying about the money. Miss Martinez? Are you still there? Yes. Can you tell me the deposit history on that account? Certainly. I show regular monthly deposits of $200 starting in September 2009, then increasing to $350 monthly in 2016. The most recent deposit was $500 on March 1st of this year. March 1st. 3 weeks ago, while I was working double shifts to afford my chemistry lab fee, Dad had put $500 into an account I didn't know existed. Who has access to this account? I managed to ask. Currently just the account holder, that's Michael Martinez, your father. The account transfers to your control automatically when you turn 21, or immediately upon your college graduation, whichever comes first. My 21st birthday wasn't until June. And I wouldn't graduate until next May. Almost 2 more years of Dad controlling money that was supposedly mine. Miss Martinez, would you like me to mail you the recent statements? Yes, please. I gave her my dorm address, my hands trembling as I wrote down the confirmation number. After hanging up, I sat staring at my phone. The money was real, but that almost made it worse. Dad had let me work myself to exhaustion, had watched me stress about every expense, had created fake medical bills and family financial crises, all while sitting on $54,000 of my money. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom, Maya, please reconsider today. Your father told me about the college fund. He was trying to protect you, to make you strong. Don't destroy our family over a misunderstanding. Asterisk. A misunderstanding. Like that's all this was. I texted back, asterisk, did you know about the fake cancer bills for Aunt Linda? Asterisk. The response took 5 full minutes, asterisk, your father thought it was easier than explaining the complex reasoning behind his parenting choices. Asterisk. Asterisk, did you know about them? Asterisk. Another long pause, asterisk, yes. Asterisk. That single word hit harder than all of Dad's messages combined. Mom had known about the fake cancer. She'd watched me cry over Aunt Linda's non-existent treatments. She'd accepted my grocery money for Linda's care packages, knowing it was all based on lies. I looked at my laptop screen, at the presentation that had taken me 3 days to perfect. Every screenshot, every timeline, every damning piece of evidence laid out with forensic precision. The college fund didn't change what I discovered. If anything, it made Dad's deception more calculated, more cruel. He'd had the power to help me all along and chose to watch me struggle instead, turning my suffering into some twisted character-building exercise. My phone rang. Brandon. Maya, Dad told me about the college fund. You had to call off whatever you're planning. Why? Because it changes something? Because it changes everything. He was protecting your money, making sure you'd appreciate it when. When what, Brandon? When I'd suffered enough to deserve it? I was pacing again, anger building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. He put conditions on my own money while giving you unlimited access to his. It's not the same situation. You're right. It's not. I stopped pacing, my voice dropping to something deadly quiet. It's worse. At least your money was actually his to give. Mine was sitting there the whole time while I ate food bank crackers and wore shoes with holes. Maya, please. See you at the party, Brandon. I hung up and opened my laptop. The presentation was perfect, but it needed one more slide. One final revelation that would show just how deep Dad's manipulation went. Asterisk slide 48, the secret college fund, $54,847 of Maya's money held hostage to teach her character while Brandon received $47,300 in free handouts. Asterisk. Uncle Rick's backyard was decorated with blue and gold balloons, Brandon's MBA program colors. About 30 people milled around the patio, family members I hadn't seen in months, all here to celebrate the golden child's latest achievement. Dad sat in a lawn chair near the house, looking pale but determined. Our eyes met across the yard, and he gave me a small smile, probably thinking his college fund revelation had changed everything. It hadn't. Maya. Aunt Linda approached with a wine glass, looking perfectly healthy for someone who'd supposedly survived cancer. How are you holding up, sweetie? I know money's been so tight for your family. The fake concern in her voice made my stomach turn. Actually, Aunt Linda, I've been meaning to thank you. Her smile faltered slightly. Thank me? For your incredible recovery. It's amazing how well you bounced back from those brutal treatments. The wine glass trembled in her hand. Behind her, I could see Dad starting to stand up from his chair, alarm written across his face. Maya, Linda started. In fact, I said, loud enough for nearby conversations to pause, I think everyone here would love to hear about your miraculous recovery story. Maybe we could talk about it during Brandon's speech? Linda's face went white. Across the yard, Mom was walking quickly toward us, panic in her eyes. I smiled and pulled out my phone, opening the presentation file I'd loaded onto Google Drive. Or maybe we should start with something else. I have quite a few family stories to share today. The silence that followed my comment about Aunt Linda's miraculous recovery stretched like a taut wire. I could see Dad trying to push himself up from his lawn chair, his face flushed despite his recent heart attack. Mom had frozen halfway across the yard, clutching a plate of appetizers like a shield. But it was Brandon who surprised me. He appeared at my elbow, his graduation cap slightly askew, and spoke in a low, urgent whisper. Maya, I need to tell you something before you do this. About the college fund. I turned to face him, noting how his usual confidence had cracked around the edges. What about it? It's not just your money in that account. His voice was barely audible over the party chatter around us. Some of it is, but Dad's been creative with the deposits. My chest tightened. What do you mean, creative? Brandon glanced around nervously, then pulled me toward the corner of the yard where Uncle Rick's rose bushes provided some privacy. Remember the Goldman Sachs internship I did last summer? The one Dad supposedly funded with $8,000? Supposedly? I never asked for money for that internship, Maya. It was paid. Really well paid. But Dad told me to keep quiet about the salary because he was using it for something else. The world tilted slightly. Using it for what? Your college fund. My internship money, plus the salary from my part-time consulting work, plus money from that startup I advised last fall. Dad's been taking chunks of my earnings and depositing them into your account. I stared at him, trying to process this new layer of deception. You're telling me my college fund is partially made from your money? About 30% of it, yeah. But Maya, I didn't mind. I wanted to help, and Dad said you'd never accept money directly from me because of your pride. My pride? The word came out strangled. He told you it was about my pride? He said you needed to feel like you earned everything yourself, but that the family wanted to make sure you had backup support. The fund was supposed to be a surprise graduation gift, with some money from him and some from me, all mixed together so you wouldn't feel guilty about accepting help. I felt like I was drowning in revelations, each one more twisted than the last. But you were still getting money from him. I saw the messages, Brandon. Rent money, food money, travel expenses. Brandon's face reddened. Those weren't real expenses. Well, some were, but mostly Dad was having me inflate my costs and funnel the extra money back to your fund. The $1,800 for groceries? I was spending maybe $400 and sending the rest to him. You were laundering money through fake expenses to secretly contribute to my college fund while I worked 60-hour weeks. Dad said it was the only way you'd accept help. He was convinced that if you knew the money existed, you'd either refuse it or stop working so hard. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to one of the screenshots I'd memorized. March 22nd, Dad texts you about my broken winter coat and how it's good that I'm not vain like most girls. Was that part of the act too? Brandon winced. He was trying to document your struggles, to justify the fund to himself. Like keeping a record of why you deserve the help. By mocking me to you? Maya, I know how it sounds, but in his mind, he was protecting you. Building evidence that you were working hard and deserving of support. Across the yard, I could see more family members arriving. Grandma Martinez, clutching her purse and scanning the crowd for familiar faces. Cousin Elena with her new baby. All the people who'd looked at me with pity over the years, believing I was the family burden. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice deadly calm. Dad created fake medical bills to explain away family finances. You pretended to be financially dependent while secretly contributing to my fund. Mom went along with all of it, and Aunt Linda faked cancer treatments. All to protect me from, what exactly? Knowing that people cared about me? To protect you from feeling like charity, Brandon said desperately. Dad grew up poor, Maya. Really poor. His father gave him handouts that destroyed his self-respect, made him feel worthless. He was terrified of doing the same thing to us. So instead he made me feel worthless in a different way. That wasn't the intention. The road to hell, Brandon. I looked at my phone, at the presentation that suddenly felt both more justified and more devastating than before. Every single person at this party has been lying to me for years. Every conversation, every family dinner, every graduation where people asked how I was holding up financially. We were trying to help. By making me the star of a reality show I didn't know I was in. My voice was rising now, and I could see heads turning in our direction. By turning my life into some fucked up social experiment about the value of hard work? Dad was on his feet now, moving slowly but determinately toward us. Mom had abandoned her appetizer plate and was right behind him. The party was starting to notice the tension, conversations dying as people sensed drama brewing. Maya, Dad called out, slightly breathless. Son, what are you telling her? Brandon looked between us, his face pale with guilt. I told her about the fund structure, Dad. She deserved to know where the money really came from. Dad's expression shifted from concern to something that looked almost like relief. Good. Maya, now you understand. This was never about favoring Brandon or punishing you. This was about building something together, as a family. I looked at him, this man who'd orchestrated years of deception in the name of love, and felt something cold settle in my chest. You're right, Dad, I said loudly enough for the gathering crowd to hear. This is definitely about family. I held up my phone, the presentation loaded and ready. In fact, I think everyone here should understand exactly what kind of family we really are. The silence that followed my declaration was deafening. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward me, phones and conversations forgotten. Uncle Rick paused mid-laugh at something Cousin Elena had said. Grandma Martinez clutched her purse tighter, sensing trouble. Dad took another step closer, his hospital bracelet still visible under his dress shirt sleeve. Maya, please. Not here. Not like this. When then, Dad? When would be a good time to talk about the truth? I held up my phone, finger hovering over the presentation. After another year of fake medical bills? After Brandon's wedding that you'll secretly pay for while I work catering jobs? What medical bills? Grandma's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Michael, what is she talking about? Before Dad could answer, I opened my mouth and let years of suppressed truth pour out. Aunt Linda never had cancer, Grandma. Dad made up fake treatment bills to explain why the family couldn't help with my college expenses. The effect was immediate. Aunt Linda dropped her wine glass, the sound of shattering glass sharp against the sudden gasps from the crowd. Uncle Rick's face went from confusion to dawning horror as he looked between his wife and his brother. Linda? Uncle Rick's voice was barely a whisper. What is she talking about? Aunt Linda opened her mouth, then closed it, looking desperately toward Dad for rescue that wasn't coming. Mom stepped forward, her hands raised as if she could physically contain the explosion happening around us. Maya, stop, Mom pleaded. You don't understand the full picture. I understand perfectly, I cut her off, scrolling to my favorite screenshot. Dad to Brandon, April 15th, Maya's spring break plans are pathetic, staying in her dorm to work extra shifts while normal kids go to beaches. Good thing she doesn't know Brandon's in Cancun on our dime. Her martyrdom complex would be insufferable. Brandon's graduation cap fell off as he jerked backward like I'd slapped him. Maya, that message is out of context. What context makes calling my work ethic a martyrdom complex acceptable? I turned to address the crowd directly, my voice carrying across Uncle Rick's perfectly manicured lawn. While I was working 16-hour days to afford textbooks, my family was having group chats about how pathetic my life was. Grandma Martinez stepped forward, her cane tapping against the flagstone patio. Mija, what are you saying? Your father told us you were proud, that you didn't want help. I never said that. The words came out raw, scraping my throat. I begged for help, Grandma. I asked about family loans, work-study programs, anything. Dad told me we were broke because of Aunt Linda's medical bills. I don't understand, Uncle Rick said, his face flushed with anger now. Linda, did you lie about having cancer? Did you let Maya send us money for fake treatments? The $60 care package. I'd forgotten about mentioning that, but apparently the family had passed it around as evidence of my good heart. Aunt Linda's face crumpled as she realized there was no way to spin this. Rick, I can explain, she started. With what? More lies? His voice boomed across the party, causing baby Sophia to start crying in Elena's arms. Our niece sent us grocery money she couldn't afford because she thought you were dying. It wasn't supposed to go that far, Dad interjected, finally reaching our corner of the yard. The medical bills were just meant to explain budget constraints, not to solicit money from Maya. But you took it anyway, I said, pulling up another screenshot. Dad to Aunt Linda, October 30th, Maya's care package money can go toward Brandon's Halloween weekend in Vegas. $60 covers his Uber rides. She'll never know, and technically it's still family money. The sound Grandma made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Elena was backing away from us, clutching her baby like our family drama might be contagious. Other relatives were pulling out their own phones, some recording, others texting frantically. Vegas? Uncle Rick's voice had gone dangerously quiet. You used your charity money to fund Brandon's gambling trip? It wasn't gambling, Brandon protested weakly. It was a business networking event. Shut up, Uncle Rick snapped, his usual jovial demeanor completely gone. Just shut up, Brandon. Dad was breathing heavily now, his face gray in a way that reminded me uncomfortably of the hospital. But I couldn't stop. The truth was pouring out of me like water through a burst dam, and I was drowning in the relief of finally being honest. There's more, I announced to the horrified crowd. So much more. The college fund everyone's about to hear Dad mention? I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent party. It exists. $54,000 that's supposedly been saved for me since I was 5. I could see relief starting to creep across some faces. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding after all. Dad even managed a weak smile, probably thinking I was about to vindicate his methods. But here's the thing, I said, crushing that hope. I can't touch that money until I'm 21 or graduate college. Dad controls it completely. So while I've been eating food bank crackers and wearing shoes with holes, he's been sitting on my own money, deciding when I've suffered enough to deserve it. Grandma's cane clattered to the ground. Michael, tell me she's lying. Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Mama, it's not that simple. I was teaching her. You were teaching her what? Cousin Elena had found her voice, still clutching baby Sophia. That her own family would let her starve rather than admit they cared about her? And the best part, I continued, scrolling to my newest discovery, is that 30% of that fund comes from Brandon's secret earnings. Money he made from paid internships and consulting jobs that Dad told everyone were expenses he was covering. Brandon's face went from pale to green. Maya, please don't. Oh, we're way past please don't, brother. I turned back to the crowd, which had grown larger as neighbors heard the commotion. My entire family has been running a psychological experiment on me for years. Creating fake financial crises, laundering money through made-up expenses, all to see how much I could endure before breaking. That's not what this was, Mom finally spoke up, her voice shaking. Maya, we were trying to protect you from becoming entitled. Entitled to what? Basic honesty from my own family? I laughed, but it came out bitter and sharp. Do you know what entitled looks like? It looks like Brandon texting Dad for rent money while Dad's having a heart attack. It looks like $800 for a wardrobe emergency while your daughter wears the same 3 sweaters for 2 years. Uncle Rick was staring at his brother like he'd never seen him before. Michael, what the hell is wrong with you? She's your daughter, not some lab rat. You don't understand, Dad said desperately, his breathing getting more labored. My father gave me everything, never made me work for anything. It destroyed my character, made me weak. So you decided to destroy hers instead? Grandma had retrieved her cane and was pointing it at Dad like a weapon. By lying to her? By making her family think she was a burden? She was never a burden. Then why did you tell Uncle Rick she was? I pulled up another screenshot, my hand steadier now that the truth was finally coming out. March 28th, Maya's asking about summer housing again. I keep hoping she'll figure out a solution that doesn't involve us. Brandon never needed this much hand-holding. Uncle Rick's face darkened further. You told me Maya was too proud to accept help. You made me feel guilty for not reaching out to her. Because she would have been too proud. No, Dad, I cut him off. You were too proud. Too proud to admit that your parenting philosophy was just elaborate cruelty dressed up as character building. The party had completely stopped now. Graduation balloons swayed in the breeze above a crowd of stunned relatives, their blue and gold cheerfulness obscene against the devastation spreading across Uncle Rick's backyard. Dad clutched his chest, his breathing becoming more ragged. Maya, please. My heart. Your heart? The word came out like a slap. You're going to use your heart attack to manipulate me now too? Just like you used fake cancer and fake medical bills and fake poverty? Mom rushed to Dad's side as he swayed slightly, but I couldn't stop the words from coming. Well, here's something for your heart, Dad, I'm done. With all of it. The lies, the games, the twisted lessons. You want to see what your character building actually built? You built a daughter who can't trust her own family. I turned to face the entire gathering, my voice carrying across the silent backyard. But you know what the real tragedy is? I would have been grateful for honest help. A simple conversation about family resources, about Brandon contributing to my education, about the fund existing, I would have cried tears of joy and worked just as hard. Dad was leaning heavily on Mom now, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. Even in crisis, he was looking for angles. Instead, I continued, you turned my gratitude into a performance you could critique in private messages. Every thank you I gave for birthday money, every time I said I was proud to be independent, you were screenshotting it for Brandon, analyzing whether I'd suffered enough yet to deserve basic family support. Grandma Martinez stepped closer, her weathered face etched with disgust. Michael, show me your phone. Right now. Mama, I'm having chest pains. Show me the phone or I'll call an ambulance and let the paramedics see whatever Maya's about to share next. Her voice held the authority of someone who'd raised 8 children through the Depression. Choose. Dad's phone was still in Mom's purse from the hospital. With shaking hands, she pulled it out and handed it to Grandma, who immediately passed it to me. Read it out loud, Mija. All of it. Let this family hear what my son really thinks. I scrolled to one of the worst messages, my voice steady despite the tears starting to fall. Dad to Brandon, May 2nd, Maya's working Mother's Day instead of coming home for dinner. She says she needs the holiday pay, but I think she's being dramatic. Your mother's crying, but honestly, Maya's always been selfish when money's involved. At least you understand family priorities. The collective intake of breath was audible. I remembered that Mother's Day, I picked up a double shift at the catering company because they offered time and a half pay, and I desperately needed money for summer housing. I'd cried in the restaurant bathroom, feeling guilty for missing Mom's dinner, but the extra $180 meant I could afford groceries for 2 weeks. I worked Mother's Day because I was broke, I said, looking directly at Mom. And instead of helping me or understanding why I needed the money, Dad used it as evidence that I was selfish. While simultaneously planning Brandon's summer in Europe. Europe? Uncle Rick's voice cracked. What summer in Europe? I scrolled further, finding the message thread that had made me physically nauseous. Dad to Brandon, May 15th, your London study abroad deposit went through, $8,500 for 6 weeks. Educational opportunity of a lifetime. Meanwhile, Maya's talking about spending summer break working at a cannery in Alaska because they provide housing. The contrast between your choices is remarkable. Brandon's face was hidden in his hands now. Maya, I never went to London. I turned down that program. Because you felt guilty? Because Dad's payment bounced, he whispered. The account didn't have enough money after all. But I was too embarrassed to tell anyone, so I pretended I'd decided against it. Another revelation. Dad had been promising money he didn't have, living in some fantasy where he was the generous patriarch funding everyone's dreams. The college fund was real, but apparently his ability to access additional money wasn't. So you lied about having opportunities you couldn't actually afford, I said, while I was researching Alaskan fish processing plants because they were the only jobs that provided room and board. Maya, Dad wheezed from Mom's arms, the Alaska job would have been good for you. Character building. The entire party erupted. Uncle Rick started shouting about emotional abuse. Aunt Linda was sobbing openly. Cousin Elena was live streaming on Facebook. And Grandma Martinez raised her cane like she might actually hit her own son with it. Character building? Grandma's voice shook with rage. Mijo, you didn't build her character. You broke her trust. There's a difference. But it was what happened next that shattered whatever was left of my composure. Dad, still wheezing in Mom's arms, managed to pull out his own phone with trembling fingers. Maya, he gasped, holding up the screen. Look at this. Look what you've done to our family. On his phone was our family group chat, the one I'd been removed from 6 months ago when I became too negative about money. Brandon, Mom, Dad, and apparently several aunts and uncles had been messaging frantically for the past 10 minutes. Mom to family group, today, 2:47 p.m. Asterisk Maya's having a breakdown at the party. Someone needs to stop her before she says something she can't take back. Asterisk. Aunt Linda to family group, today, 2:48 p.m. Asterisk, should we call the police? She seems unstable. Asterisk. Uncle Rick to family group, today, 2:52 p.m. Asterisk, are you people insane? Maya's the only one telling the truth here. Asterisk. Brandon to family group, today, 2:53 p.m. Asterisk, Dad's having chest pains again. Maya needs to stop this now. Asterisk. I stared at the messages, realizing they'd been coordinating damage control in real time while I was pouring my heart out. Even now, in the middle of my moment of truth, they were treating me like a problem to be managed rather than a person who deserved honesty. You have a family group chat, I said slowly, my voice barely audible over baby Sophia's crying. You removed me from the family group chat and have been talking about me behind my back for months. Dad tried to put the phone away, but I was faster. I grabbed it from his weak grip and scrolled up, finding months of messages I'd never seen. Dad to family group, January 8th, 23 p.m. Asterisk Maya's asking about spring break plans again. Can everyone please stick to the story about tight finances? Linda, if she asks about your treatments, remember you're doing chemo on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Asterisk. Aunt Linda to family group, January 8th, 31 p.m. Asterisk Michael, I hate lying to her. She sent me a get well card with $20 inside. A $20 bill she probably needed for food. Asterisk. Dad to family group, January 8th, 35 p.m. Asterisk, the lying ends when she learns to stand on her own 2 feet. Brandon never needed this much coddling. Asterisk. Brandon to family group, January 8th, 37 p.m. Asterisk, Dad, maybe we should just tell her about the fund? She's working herself to death. Asterisk. Dad to family group, January 8th, 42 p.m. Asterisk, absolutely not. The fund only works if she doesn't know it exists. The moment she gets comfortable, she'll stop fighting for herself. Asterisk. January 8th, I announced to the horrified crowd, my voice gaining strength. 3 days after I fainted at work from exhaustion because I'd been pulling doubles to afford my textbooks. You all knew I'd collapsed, and instead of helping, Dad sent instructions on how to better coordinate your lies. Grandma Martinez snatched the phone from my hands, her arthritic fingers surprisingly quick as she scrolled through more messages. Her face went from angry to devastated as she read. There are hundreds of messages, she whispered. Months of planning how to deceive Maya. Scheduling fake doctor appointments for Linda, coordinating stories about family finances, even. She paused, her voice breaking. Even discussing Maya's weight loss and whether it meant the lesson was working. The party had descended into chaos. Uncle Rick was shouting at Dad about psychological abuse. Aunt Linda was hysterically confessing to neighbors about the fake cancer. Cousin Elena was trying to calm her screaming baby while live streaming what she kept calling the most insane family meltdown ever. But it was Grandma's next words that cut through all the noise. "There's a message here from yesterday," she said, her voice deadly quiet. After Michael's heart attack, when Maya was at the hospital. She held up the phone, reading Dad's words aloud, crisis managed. Maya found the messages but Brandon talked to her. College fund revelation should keep her quiet through graduation. If she still makes trouble tomorrow, we tell everyone she's having a stress-induced breakdown from overwork. Family rallies around the sick daughter instead of listening to her accusations. The backyard went silent except for the sound of my world completely collapsing. The silence that followed Grandma reading Dad's final manipulation was deafening. Even baby Sophia had stopped crying, as if sensing the magnitude of what had just been exposed. I looked at the faces surrounding me, 30 relatives who just witnessed the complete destruction of everything they thought they knew about our family. Uncle Rick's face was purple with rage. Aunt Linda had collapsed into a patio chair, sobbing. Mom was still supporting Dad's weight, but her expression had shifted from protective to horrified. And Dad? Dad was staring at his phone in Grandma's weathered hands like it had personally betrayed him. A stress-induced breakdown, I repeated slowly, tasting each word. Even after your heart attack, even after getting caught, your first instinct was to make me the villain of this story. Maya, you have to understand, Dad started. No, Grandma Martinez interrupted, her voice carrying the authority of 8 decades. Michael, you need to understand something. This ends now. She turned to face the entire gathering, Dad's phone still in her grip. I've heard enough. Maya, Mija, you asked what you found in your father's deleted messages? You found out that you deserve better than this family has given you. Mama, Dad wheezed. Silencio. The Spanish command cracked like a whip. You want to know what character looks like, Michael? It's Maya working 60 hours a week while maintaining a 3.7 GPA. It's sending grocery money to a fake cancer patient because she thought her family needed help. It's surviving on food bank crackers while never once asking this family for pity. Uncle Rick stepped forward, his voice shaking with emotion. Maya, I need you to know something. 6 months ago, your father told me you were too proud to accept help from extended family. I offered to pay for your spring semester textbooks, and he said you'd be insulted by the charity. What? The word came out strangled. I had $800 ready to transfer to you. Michael convinced me it would damage your self-esteem to know your uncle was helping. Aunt Linda looked up from her sobbing. The Christmas money too. All of us wanted to help, but Michael said you'd specifically asked that family not treat you like a charity case. One by one, relatives stepped forward with similar stories. Cousin Elena had wanted to hire me for social media work at her marketing company. Uncle David had tried to set up an interview at his accounting firm. Grandma herself had attempted to give me her late husband's scholarship fund, only to be told by Dad that I'd already declined it. Every opportunity, I whispered, understanding dawning like a sick sunrise. You didn't just refuse to help me. You actively blocked other people from helping me. Dad's breathing was labored, but his eyes were still sharp. Because you needed to do it yourself. All of you are undermining. We're undermining nothing, Uncle Rick snarled. You want to see what you actually accomplished, Michael? You turned your daughter into the hardest working person in this family while convincing her she was the disappointment. You made her grateful for scraps while your son lived like a prince. And worst of all, you made the rest of us complicit in breaking her spirit. Brandon finally looked up from his hands. Maya, I'm so sorry. I thought we were helping you. I looked at my older brother, this person I'd admired and envied and resented, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Brandon, you were 23 years old when this started. You trusted Dad's judgment because you were barely an adult yourself. I turned to face our father. But you? You're 51 years old. You knew exactly what you were doing. Dad tried to straighten up, his manipulation instinct still firing. Maya, the college fund proves I always plan to help. The college fund proves you're a control freak who gets off on playing God with other people's lives. Grandma Martinez stepped between us, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. Maya, you have choices now. Real ones, for the first time. She was right. The truth was out. The family's reaction had been everything I'd hoped for and more: validation, support, genuine horror at what had been done to me. Dad's final manipulation attempt had backfired spectacularly. You know what I choose? I said, my voice steady for the first time in years. I choose honesty. Complete honesty, moving forward, with everyone. I turned to address the entire gathering. I'm not going back to my dorm room to pretend this didn't happen. I'm not going to minimize this or accept apologies that come with conditions. What happened here today is exactly what needed to happen. Dad made one last desperate attempt. Maya, if you calm down, we can discuss accessing your college fund early. Keep it, I said, the words surprising even me. Every penny. Consider it payment for the most expensive lesson anyone's ever learned about what happens when you treat your child like a psychology experiment. The collective gasp from my relatives was audible, but I felt nothing but relief. I'll finish college with my loans and my work-study jobs and my food bank meals, because that's what I've been doing all along. The difference is, now I know I'm doing it because you chose cruelty over love, not because I'm not worth helping. Uncle Rick pulled out his phone. Maya, you're not doing this alone anymore. I'm transferring money for your textbooks tonight. Linda's setting up that interview at her company. We're going to fix what Michael broke. And Maya, Grandma added, tucking Dad's phone into her purse like evidence in a trial, you're not the family disappointment. You never were. You're the family success story, you just didn't know it yet. I looked one final time at Dad, still wheezing in Mom's arms, his face gray with defeat and genuine cardiac distress. I hope you recover fully from your heart attack, I said quietly. And I hope someday you understand that the daughter you were trying to build with all your lies and manipulation? She was standing right in front of you the whole time. The last thing I saw as I walked away from Brandon's graduation party was Grandma Martinez deleting every message in the family group chat, one by one, while 30 relatives watched in approval. My phone started buzzing with texts before I even reached my car, job offers, dinner invitations, and for the first time in my life, a family group chat with my name actually included. The truth, it turned out, really had set me free.